This is the digestive system. Let's take a look. First begin with ingestion, which is the act of eating. Then we move on to digestion. Digestion just means breaking down your food, and it will include mechanical digestion. Mechanical digestion starts in the oral cavity, also known as the mouth. Your mouth will have your teeth, which will increase the surface area for your digestive enzymes and will make your food easier to swallow. Now, your tongue will shape your food into a bolus, also known as a ball of food. The salivary glands located in your mouth will, by nerve reflex, cause a delivery of saliva, which will lubricate your food and also contains an enzyme called salivary amylase. Salivary amylase initiates a breakdown of starch. So we proceed on to your pharynx, which is your throat region, after the tongue shifts the food in. And the pharynx opens up to two spots. One is the trachea, here, which will lead to your lungs. The trachea is protected by the epiglottis, which will close up the trachea when you're swallowing so you don't get food in your windpipe. Of course, this does not work 100%. Also in the pharynx is the esophagus, which will lead to the stomach, right here. Now, the esophagus is regulated by what we call sphincters. Sphincters are ring-like muscle valves that regulate the movement down the alimentary canal. They consist of contractions and relaxations. Contractions will close off our tubes, and relaxations will open our tube. This process of relaxing and contracting is called peristalsis. It's this alternating relaxation contraction. Peristalsis is regulated by the enteric nervous system. So then, after it moves down the esophagus, we move on to the stomach. The stomach will store your food and convert it into chyme. Chyme is a slurry of digestive food and juices. Chyme consists of gastric acid. Gastric acid consists of hydrochloric acid, which maintains the pH of gastric acid at about 2, and that makes it very acidic. And because it's very acidic, it will break down your food and denature your proteins, making it very easier for digestive enzymes to get at them, and will also kill bacteria before they make you sick, although this is not 100% successful. Also included in gastric acid is what we call pepsin. Pepsin is considered to be a type of protease, and protease is a protein digestive enzyme. So how do these pepsin and hydrochloric acid get made? Well, we have different cells. We have parietal cells, chief cells, and mucous cells. The parietal cells will secrete hydrogen and chloride ions separately, and they will form to make hydrochloric acid. Chief cells will secrete inactive pepsinogen, and pepsinogen, in the presence of hydrochloric acid, will form active protease. Mucous cells will protect the stomach from the gastric juice, which is, of course, very acidic. It will protect the stomach from digesting itself. All of this is located in the epithelium. So, in the stomach, we move on to what we call a sphincter. Another sphincter. It will regulate how much chyme will make it into the small intestine, which we will start right afterwards. Now, the first part of the small intestine is called the duodenum, and the duodenum is where chyme will mix with these digestive juices, and the digestive juices will come from many sources. One source will be from the liver, and the liver will produce bile, which is a type of mixture and contains bile salts. Bile salts act as emulsifiers and will help with the digestion and absorption of lipids. Bile will then be stored and concentrated in the gallbladder, located right there. Another source for the digestive juices will be from the pancreas. The pancreas will produce alkaline or basic solution, and the basic solution will basically neutralize the chyme and will act as a buffer so it doesn't burn when it goes through your small intestine. The pancreas also secretes proteases, and the proteases in this case are trypsin and chymotrypsin. These proteases will be activated in the duodenum. The last part where these digestive juices come from is from small intestine secretions. They'll come from the epithelial lining of the duodenum and will contain various proteases, or, well, not proteases, but digestive enzymes. One type is disaccharidases, which will break down disaccharides, which are carbohydrates. They also contain peptidases, which will break down peptides, and nucleodases, which will break down nucleotides. Now, after we go through this digestive part of the small intestine, we then go into the second and third part of the small intestine, where we have absorption. Now, in the small intestine, we have the jejunum and the ileum, and in these jejunum and ileum, we will have villi, or villi, or however you like to pronounce them. They're basically finger-like projections, as pictured here, and they will help to absorb your nutrients by increasing your surface area. Also, on the villi, or villi themselves, we have microvilli, which are basically microscopic projections on each simple columnar epithelial cell of villi, and they will increase the surface area even more. Now, it should be wise to note that the nutrients move by passive or active transport from the lumen, or the cavity, into the epithelial cell. So, one thing to note is that all nutrients, except for fats, enter the capillaries of the villi, or villi. So after they enter to here, they enter the capillaries, which are around here. And the capillaries will then go to what we call the hepatic portal vein, pictured in blue right here, which will lead us from the capillaries of the villi to the liver, up here. Now, the liver will detoxify our blood and also regulate the digestion of nutrients. Afterwards, it will then head off to the heart and circulatory system. But then, remember what we said, all nutrients except for fats will enter the capillaries. What happens to fats? Well, what happens is lipase breaks down these fats into what we call, from triglyceride into fatty acids and monoglycerides. And because they're all broken down now, they can finally enter the epithelium, where they will recombine into triglyceride again. I understand that triglyceride as a fat is hydrophobic, so we need to coat them in amphipathic substances such as cholesterol, phospholipids, and proteins. Now, after coating them, they will become what we call chylomicron. And these will be used to transport the fats, and chylomicron are also water-soluble, making it easier to transport throughout the body. They will be transported through the lacteal, which is a structure by the capillaries, which will then enter a lymphatic vessel, which will deliver lymph to the large veins that return to the heart. So, that's absorption for you, but after we finish the small intestine, we'll eventually reach the large intestine, which is considered to be the last stretch. Now, we should also note that the small intestine is called the small intestine because of its smaller diameter. It's actually a whole lot longer than the large intestine. But continuing on, the large intestine is the last stretch, and one part, the one branch of where the small intestine meets up with the large intestine, is called the cecum. The cecum will aid in the fermenting of ingested material, especially plants, and they're really small in humans. And because it helps with the ingestion of material from plants, they will be much bigger in pure herbivores. The cecum also contains bacteria known as microflora and microfauna. Now, attached to the cecum is what we call an appendix. The appendix is a finger-like extension, and it plays a minor role and dispensable role in immunity. Now, where the small intestine connects to the large intestine, is what we call the colon. It will extend around our small intestine and will lead to the rectum and the anus. Now, the colon is connected to the small intestine. Its major function is to absorb the water left over. And we want the colon to absorb the water because we want it to be reused. It also makes the feces much more solid. Now the feces themselves will have, well, I'll save that for later. The colon will also house bacteria living on the unabsorbed organic material. Some bacteria will also produce vitamins. Now, after we finish up with the colon, we'll go to the rectum, which is considered to be the terminal end and where we store the feces before elimination. Okay, so the feces themselves are undigested material and bacteria and will become more solid as we lose more water. After we finish up with the rectum, we will go to the anus, which is the opening through which waste is eliminated. And that, my friends, is the digestive system.